Welcome to the Ameer Rosic Show. If you're an entrepreneur looking to master your business, your mindset, and your health, you've come to the right place. Helping entrepreneurs and top performers achieve mastery. This is the Ameer Rosic Show with your host, Ameer Rosic.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ameer Rosic Show. I got my good friend Steve Dar with us today. Now Steve is an expert at driving and converting and monetizing traffic. He's managed over $1.3 million in online advertising for bootstrap startups and Fortune 500 companies. He's a founder and CEO of Conversion for Good, a conversion optimization agency that works exclusively with mission-driven businesses and non-profit organizations. As well, he's the author of Profit Hacking. Steve, welcome to the Ameer Rosic Show. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Ameer.
It's my pleasure, man. So what's new, man? I know you're coming out with your book, I think next week or so I'm pretty sure you're busy with that right now.
Yeah, no, it's always crazy. Like with anything, when you're launching it, things break, fires start. There's all these things that need to get done that were unforeseen, and so I'm in the middle of that. But I took the time out to talk to you.
I appreciate it, man, because, man, you have a lot of wisdom and knowledge. Like I said at the beginning, you've worked with the who's who's. And you know the ins and outs, the very detailed procedures and mechanical procedures for what it really takes to create an online business, you know? And that's why you actually wrote the book, right? To kind of educate the other entrepreneurs out there. Well, you guys are doing it kind of wrong, and maybe you should look at it like this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like the book that I wish was given to me when I started my first business like 4 or 5 years ago. And so what it was is, over the course of running a couple businesses on my own, failing a lot early, which, you know, as I'm sure your readers are familiar with, if they listen to you, they're familiar with like the stoic mindset and that failure is just feedback. And those are like the best learning opportunities. But through that and then working with big companies with their huge budgets, I got to run so much traffic, run all these tests, and I realized, okay, like people get caught up in maybe the wrong parts of their business. And if you focus here, that's where like your real leverage is.
So let's talk about that a little bit. You know, what do you see are the biggest mistakes today when it comes to brands trying to market their product?
Yeah, so 2 things, and they're pretty related. One is that a lot of people just they create their website and then they think, okay, we're done with this part of our marketing, this part of our business. Now let's drive traffic to it. And they get so focused on driving traffic to that, and they lose sight of the fact that you can continually work on your website to make it more effective, to turn more of those visitors into buyers, subscribers, customers. And it's almost like if you want to get into really good shape and you only do one of the 2 of diet and exercise, that's like only focusing on traffic. And so like if you work out all the time but you eat like crap, you know, you're really hurting yourself. You're not getting the best possible results.
So dealing with, like, because there's 2 different things we're talking about here. A is, one, you have traffic, so people going to your website, and then B, you have, you know, conversions, whatever that means, where you capturing the emails or making a sale. What are some key mistakes that you've seen that usually brands do on website these days that they should not do at all?
Yeah, a lot of it is really just copy related. You know, small tweaks in the copy can make a huge difference, and getting someone who's, you know, semi-pro or competent in copywriting can make a huge difference. But it could be small things too, like just the way you phrase your offer or like the call to action. People really, like when people create their website, a lot of times they're focused on what's in it for them being themselves and their business. But really it's about what can I do for the customer and the visitor? How can I serve them? What's in it for them? Because that's what people are thinking about when they come to a website. Like especially if it's their first time, they're like, what can I do here? What's in it for me? Like, why should I stay here? Why should I give them my contact info or my money? And then the second thing is, a lot of times people who build websites, whether it's if you hire someone or you do it yourself, you're probably fairly web savvy, you know, and you don't really consider the fact that a lot of your visitors probably are at a lower level of computer and web usage than you. And so I call it the mom test. My mom is great at a lot of things. Using a computer is not one. And so, and I'm sure like there's a percentage of your users who are not extremely computer literate. So if you don't make it abundantly clear and just dead simple obvious what you want them to do, where you want them to click, where you want them to go, a percentage of people are going to miss it, they're going to overlook it, or they might not know, they might be confused, and you're losing out on potential customers.
So simplicity is the key to brilliance.
Yeah, honestly, simplicity and clarity are more important than persuasion. You could have the most persuasive page, the best copy, but if it's not clear and simple to do, people aren't going to invest the time to figure it out.
It's like the paradox anomaly, like too many choices cause confusion.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I did a test on my page. You and you actually helped me out on my page. I think it was like a couple of months ago, and I really just chopped everything down and made it simple. And conversions went through the roof, man. Like cross sites, 60% plus. Like it's huge, man. So this whole simplicity thing and really focusing on the user benefit is big. Now, when it comes to like conversions, obviously you just mentioned something really important, like testing the headlines, figuring out your USP, figuring out exactly the color of the button and everything. Now let's say we're talking to maybe a fashion brand. For example, I'm launching Reparo soon after the New Year's, etc. What would you say is the best kind of approach a fashion brand could do to make a website simple, easy, non-complicated? Like, okay, I land on this page, now what?
So, I mean, I really like the e-commerce solutions that are out there. Like, I think Shopify does a really good job. And,
Yeah.
but if you want a custom solution, I would even say model the best Shopify or the best big e-commerce sites, because they have gone through so many customers. They have so much data. They're constantly trying to make their sites a little bit better, and they know what works. So not to say completely model them, but there's a lot of good things that they do. And so if you just make it clear that help them find the item that's right for them. So if you've got a big selection, you need to have some good filters on the side to help them decide exactly what's right for them. Make it really clear. I mean, I think buttons above the fold on e-commerce sites are really important. A lot of clients I see on their cart page and on their product pages, you need to scroll down to either add to the cart or get to the checkout. And oftentimes just moving that button up or adding a button above the fold and keeping the one below the fold too. So that way if someone's ready up here, they're ready. And then if they need more content information, like you give them a second chance to pull that trigger, that a lot of times lifts your conversion rates.
What's your take on then like balancing between email capture versus trying to sell them right away on an e-commerce website?
So for the most part, I would go for the sale, and then you can capture the email, when they convert and buy. But it might be worthwhile to have some sort of exit pop, like using something like Bounce Exchange. And if they seem like they're going to be leaving, you can say, hey, we've got this special deal, or we've got something going on. You can capture the email address in exchange for giving them something. And because you really do, in the end, you want a customer, right? Like the customer is the biggest asset. And once you have someone, they could be a source of referrals. They could be a multiple time buyer. But I wouldn't prioritize an email address over the sale, but I would definitely have that in place to try and capture people who don't appear like they're going to be buying. And also like a way to talk to cart abandoners and other things like that to salvage people who make it partway through the funnel but then get stuck.
Talk about that. What do you mean by cart abandonment?
Sure. So anyone who takes this first step of adding a product to their cart, or either going just to the cart page or to the checkout funnel, and then deciding ultimately I'm not going to put in my credit card number and my contact info and fully complete the purchase. Most e-commerce sites have cart abandonment rates around 50%. So it's pretty
50?
Yeah,
Wow.
50.
That is big. So what would you do? Would you like cookie them, or like you put a pixel tracking code there?
Yeah, retargeting is really effective. So putting the pixel on one of those pages and saying something like, maybe even giving them a discount to complete, or just saying like, or showing them the item that they put in their cart to remind them. Also, if you can have a multi-step cart or checkout sequence, so you get the email address first and then you ask for the other stuff. And
that's
so
sneaky. I like that.
Yeah. And it's good for a couple of reasons. One, so a lot of times when people start their conversion process, if they give you some information and they complete step one, and like they see maybe there's a progress bar, if they are 33% of the way through, people are completionists. They want to complete things. So if it's like all or nothing, they might abandon. But if they get part of the way there, then they might be more likely to do step two, step three, whatever, to complete. But also you get the email on the front end, And then if they end up not buying, you can use whatever software or CRM or whatever you use to say, hey, like we noticed that you didn't complete your thing. And sometimes I get emails saying like, hey, here's 10% off, or hey, here's like a limited time something to try and recapture those.
Where does split testing come into this?
So I think split testing, A/B testing is something that you need to be doing pretty much continuously. Just like you would want more traffic to your website tomorrow than you had today, or next month than you did this month, you want your site to convert a higher percentage of your visitors next month than this month. And so the best way to do that is always be running at least one A/B test. And so whether you have a tool like Optimizely, which just recently changed to being free for a good segment of users. If your website's got a lot of traffic or it's kind of complicated, you need to pay. But for a lot of listeners, they'll be able to use the free version. And it's free, like, completely, not even a free trial. But also,
Yeah,
like,
they made it free up to, I think, 5,000 views or something.
yeah, I'd have to double check.
Yeah.
But, I mean, a decent number to at least get started if you haven't started. And that's, like, the key, right, with anything. Like, you just need to get started, get going. Because once you win one test, and like you said, you've seen a 60% increase in your conversions, like you're hooked, right? Like you see the value.
It becomes gamified.
Right, exactly. It's like, you get the reward and then you do that loop of, so yeah, and then also like lead pages, they have A/B testing within their functionality. So yeah, I mean, you can always be doing better. There's probably something on your site that isn't like the absolute best that it could be. And that's like the thing. When you get your website designed, you're basically making a whole bunch of guesses, like thousands of micro guesses, and testing provides truth. It verifies whether or not something works better or worse. And over time, you learn stuff. You learn stuff about your visitors and what messaging, what images resonate more authentically, and
Well, you
how you
told
can
me a
speak to
great
them.
tip. Like I use the software Cam Session.
Mhm.
That's amazing, man. That's like a hidden ninja tool right there that like actually tracks the movement of the mouse and where it goes and how they actually view your page as a customer.
hmm Yeah, and so like the really expensive way of doing that is user testing, where you either bring people in and you like watch over their shoulder as they interact with your site, and you give them a list of tasks to do. And the less expensive way, and it's a little bit less effective, but it's a great low-cost substitute, is something like Session Cam. And you get to see like how people work with your site, so you know where are they focusing their attention, where are they ignoring stuff, like are they paying attention to the key parts of your site, do they like not know how to use something. It's really valuable.
Let's talk about referrals for a second because you mentioned that earlier. How would you implement a proper referral system on your e-commerce site?
So one thing that I really love is there's this book by Jonah Berger called Contagious, and it's the study of why things go viral, why things get spread. And I just bought something from an e-commerce site, and I thought they did a great job of kind of mimicking one of the things that Jonah talked about in the book. So Lululemon, the women's, I guess men's too, yoga store, they have their shopping bags are like the cloth bags that, and people use them all the time. Like as they bring them to the beach, they bring them to work as their lunch boxes. And so this company, they're a socially conscious business. They're mission driven. And so one of their things is all about sustainability. And so they sent the product, the t-shirt I bought, in this bag that's like a plastic-ish bag. And on the inside, there's a little card that said, here's 8 ways that you can reuse this bag. And they're all public ways that like I would have it out so people could see, and it's got their logo on it. So that spreads, like sparks conversation, word of mouth. But that's kind of baking virality into your product or into your deliverable. But a lot of times on, just giving them reasons to share, and it might be trading something or just providing them with some value, or like really tying your brand or your product into something that they identify with, that they'd want to share and they'd want to show off and talk about. And that's really the best way to get people to talk about you and refer you.
What's your take then on on the online referring? So for example, say you put your email in and all of a sudden something pops up and say, hey, give us like 2 more emails and you'll get 50% off or 25% off. Have you seen that to work very well?
So, I mean, I've seen it work. I've got some clients that use things like share a sale or refer a friend, or I don't remember exactly the name of the tool. And they're they do work pretty well for them. Um, I would challenge e-commerce store owners to try and think of other ways to get referrals other than discounts. I know I mentioned it a couple times earlier just as examples, but a lot of times discounting is like a slippery slope where it's hard to really enforce and get people to respect your full prices if you're offering discounts left and right. But you can get creative with it, definitely. And yeah, people definitely respond to things like that.
Is there any examples you can provide us with that you've seen? They're like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you can give them like some bonuses or something extra in addition to what they've bought. So they pay full price, but they get maybe some, so if someone buys a pair of your underwear and you want to give them a guide on how to, like a highly stylized either PDF or physical book that gets sent with the underwear, more tips on how to protect your balls and like other ways to promote like maximum testosterone and testicle health. Like people, if someone buys your underwear, they're raising their hand and saying like, I care about this area of my body, which I think pretty much every man does, and they're willing to go to lengths to protect it. So what can you give them in addition to as a bonus rather than, cut into your own profits or, discount?
That's amazing. Why aren't more e-commerce companies doing this? See, I'm glad you were talking about it at the beginning. A lot of people think it's always a traffic issue, but it's not. It's like you can have 10,000 people a day come to your site, but if you're only capturing like say 10 people and you're only converting like 0.1%, I can give you 20,000. It's pointless. Or you can have 1,000 people show up to your site and you're converting at 50% out of 1,000 people. Now that's sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it goes the other way too. It's like if you're converting a really high number, but you can't get anyone to your site, like you're not getting the same impact. But exactly, like that's where your leverage really is. So if you got 20,000 visitors a month and you're converting 2% of them, it's hard to get from 20,000 to 40,000 visitors a month. And not saying it's easy to go from 2% to 4% in conversion, but a couple tests might be able to get you there. And when you convert higher and when you're good at increasing the lifetime customer value, like earning a lot of money per conversion, then you can go out and buy traffic profitably. Like the more you increase your conversions, the more you increase your lifetime customer value, the higher what would be like your revenue per visitor or your earnings per click is. And if that's higher than your cost per click for any paid advertising, then you're profitable. You want to make that trade over and over and over. And you just want to make that gap as big as possible. You want to lower your cost per visitor and you want to increase your earnings per visitor.
Where does email marketing fall into place? So say I go on an e-commerce site, I put my email in, but I don't purchase anything. Maybe they give me 10% off because I gave them the email. How effective for e-commerce businesses is really doing that follow-up with the emails?
So it's getting less effective over time, and it's kind of, the history of email was it used to be you got mail and you got excited. Like you turned on it, go out. Yeah. And now it's like I get so many emails, it's like awful, and I actually need a better system for managing email because it takes up too much of my time, as I'm sure it's true for tons of people. So like unless I really love a business, I'm unsubscribing from their email list, or I'm just marking them as read without looking at them. And I'm not the only one. But so think about how you can add value in pretty much every email and as many communications as possible. So it's not just like, this is on sale, this is our new product, this is what's available. Think about how you can enrich their lives, whether it's through content marketing or through, whatever it is that works for your business that gives them a reason to open. But also I think a big opportunity that's probably like not used a lot in e-commerce now is everyone gets so caught up in what you can do online, all the different ways you can market on the internet, but there's less and less competition offline. Yeah. So like if someone buys your underwear or whatever you have, and so you ship them a product, you have their address in your CRM, you know where they live. And so you can send them a letter, and there's way less competition in the mailbox than there is in the email inbox these days.
It's funny though, people get now excited to get real mail. Like, yeah, I got real mail.
Yeah, like imagine, like, so if you know, for example, I just talked to a client about this recently. Like you track and you know that there's 100 people who are your best customers. Like they've bought multiple times, they're recurring customers, they buy in large quantities. It might be worth your time to either you or someone on your team, like to write a personal letter to them, like thanking them and like extending some special thing just for them, or your top 20% of your customers, for example, like if you're familiar with 80/20, like the top 20% of your customers are worth a lot more to you than the next tier of 20%, and then even more so than the next lower tier. So finding ways to make them know that you really appreciate them and they're special, and doing something like sending them a personalized thank you letter or whatever, like that just makes them, that endears you and your brand to them so much more, gives them something to talk about. And so that's something I think is unexplored for a lot of online businesses.
Yeah, similar to what Joey Coleman, he did a couple of talks for the 100-day follow-up sequence. It's like always people want more and more, and it kind of ties into Kevin Kelly's article, Your 1,000 True Fans. People always want quantity, and I'm like, it's about quality. Like you mentioned, Steve, if you got like 100 or 200 diehards, that's powerful, and make them happy. You got 100 people, they may be lifetime customers, 100 of them. And something so simple as like you spending 5 minutes writing a hand letter goes a long way. Yeah. So switching gears a little bit right over here. What would you say is, or kind of let me rephrase this. Where does social media fall into all of this?
So that is one area of all this that I would not put myself as an expert. I mean, I'm good. I can do Facebook advertising. I can do paid advertising on Twitter and like that stuff. Paid media for sure falls in my wheelhouse. But as far as building like the organic and then interacting with them, I think it's like, so for me, it's so hard to quantify the value of a tweet or like a Facebook post. And especially like with Facebook changing their algorithm all the time for business pages and making posts like way weaker, and like you almost need to pay for advertising just to get your message in front of the people that you've earned as a fan. I feel like it's not the
you
highest.
You mentioned you're doing Twitter ads. How's that going?
It's good. I think Twitter is a pretty decent opportunity for a lot of people, like that is not super explored right now. Their advertising algorithm is actually pretty close to Facebook's. Their engine is pretty close to Facebook's. So they do a good job of collecting information, and you can target people based on followers or who they follow, and you can get pretty good targeted. Not nearly as good as Facebook or Google, but I've had some good luck, and I definitely plan on doing some Twitter advertising for my book launch.
So where are you sending people? Are you sending them to a landing page? Are you sending them to your home website? Like how's the system set up?
Yeah, so there's two main things I do with paid advertising. And so one is sending them straight to a landing page where I'm trying to capture email. And then the other one is, so Nicholas Kuzmich, Facebook advertising genius, I learned this from him, and Justin Brook does it too. He's another big paid media guy. So they send people to content. It's basically like content marketing, or it's like native advertising. And so it works really well in the Facebook newsfeed. So it almost looks like just a friend sharing a really interesting article. And that's what you go on Facebook to do, to read people's posts and see what they're sharing. And you give them either like a 3 to 5 minute long video or 500 to 1,000 words of content that they're interested in. And then at the bottom you say, hey, like if you want more, here is what it is. And you have an email capture form, or you send them to a lead page or a squeeze page of some sort. And it works because now I think a lot of people are getting burnt out on being sent directly to landing pages like, hey, give us your email.
Facebook is actually going hard on that. I know a couple of people's accounts got completely trashed.
Yeah, Facebook is really, and they care most about their customers, right? And their customers are their users, not the advertisers, which is weird because the advertisers are the ones giving them money, but they care about their customers, because if the customers say Facebook's annoying and I'm going to leave, then there's no. So what they're doing, people complain. People who are not like super familiar with the marketing world, they don't like, they were not used to that, and they complain to Facebook's advertising people saying, hey, we don't like this, and so they're following their lead.
How are you quantifying the Twitter spend? So say it costs you maybe $1 per click. Like, how are you quantifying if you're getting that back?
So I'm sending them to, content or landing pages, and so just like anything else where you'd say, okay, I spent $100 and I got 10 leads, so it's $10 a lead, and my target was, $10 or $15, and so then from there it's about testing and optimizing. And there's testing on the landing page, there's testing on the copy of the ad, the image of the ad, like there's an endless number of things to tweak.
And then basically you're just gonna, so kind of like, let's rewind, because I just want people to understand and comprehend this. So say we have a budget of like $500 that we're playing around with Twitter. We're targeting certain individuals, influencers, etc. And for the sake of the argument, let's say it costs us $3 to get a lead into our email. Are you literally measuring the whole process? So maybe they go in the email and it's still like the 6th email that you sell them on a service or a product you have. So you're quantifying every single step, right?
Ideally, yeah. I mean, that's the goal, is to know as much data as possible, and it's not always the easiest thing to set up. So
it's hard because my problem though with, like, for example, some Facebook ads, I've talked to 2 people about it. Nick's a friend of mine as well. I see so many people just plugging away like $50 a day on ads. I'm like, okay, you spent 50, you got some emails, but how are you quantifying that $50 is getting you any ROI? Like, how do you know that those 5 people you got or 7 people you got down the line, or where down the line, and when and how they actually converted?
So, I mean, it depends on what system you have on the back end, but ideally, the best way would be something like Infusionsoft, where you have some really powerful back end software, so you can tag and say, okay, this person came from this lead source, and exactly, like, okay, people that come in organic through Google are worth this much, and people that come in through paid Facebook are worth this much, and then you know all your numbers. But absent that, maybe you can set up a separate list specifically for your paid media, or you can ask people, like, when they buy, like, how did you find us? That's less scientific, but it's better than nothing. And so just to go to your example, what I would recommend when you're buying ads on Facebook or Twitter, so start out and cast a really wide net, target a lot of things, and be pretty good with your targeting. So like maybe by age or by interest or by XYZ, and spend a little bit in each thing and see which one performs the best, and cut the fat. Just if it's not working, it's not working, and then focus and reallocate all your budget into the things that work, test to make it better, and then just try and ride those winners out through the course of your campaign.
Awesome. Now it's time for my hypothetical question. You're a brand new startup. You got $1,000. You want to make a website. You want to get some cash flow going. What do you do?
Okay, so you got $1,000. You don't even have a website.
Yeah. You just got $1,000 and you got a product and your idea.
Okay, so I would probably create like a one-page landing page and send people there and just have an irresistible offer, like best thing that you can do to like try and get people to opt in. And then you're emailing those people, you're trying to get them on Skype, you're trying to get them on the phone, and you're talking to them and you're asking them exactly what they need, exactly what their problems are, exactly what their vision is, like where they are now, where they want to be, what they feel is like stopping them, what their barrier or their obstacle in between that is, and get really clear on their language of what their problem is or what their desire is. And then from there, I mean, that's like the most important thing, is knowing that information and really understanding who you're targeting. And then once you know that, you can go back to these people that you got and say like, hey, like I talked to like 75 of you, I got the solution, you want to buy it, and then see if they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, pay you for it, and then use that money to reinvest into a better website, into more advertising, whatever it is.
I love it. It's a lean model. It's like first figure out their problems, solve their problems. You know, I always keep on regurgitating this quote, but it's from Peter Thiel. They ask him like, how do you actually create products? Like, I don't create products, I solve problems. People are always looking to create something. I'm like, you don't create nothing. It's like, chill out, relax. I usually tell people, start with yourself. What problems do you have? For example, Reparo, my thing, I created for me. I didn't create it for Steve. I didn't create it for Michelle. It's like, I'm going to do it for myself. And usually your problems other people have as well, right? All right. Now it takes me to the 2 final questions of the interview. First question is this, Steve. If you had to summarize, what are the 3 most powerful books that you've ever read?
Sure. So I would say one is 80-20 Sales and Marketing by Perry Marshall. That was kind of the book that I had been reading tons of books. I mean, I average about a book a week for a couple years, lots of them in marketing, sales, and entrepreneurship and business. But it was while reading Perry's book where it just like all hit me. And basically the key concepts I talk about in profit hacking kind of just started becoming really clear. So that book, huge influence. Then I think a huge thing for anyone, but especially business owners and entrepreneurs is, as I mentioned earlier, the Stoic mindset. So I think that The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday is probably the most accessible and a really good starter for getting into Stoicism. Like I've read Meditations and it's great, but I thought the examples and the stories and just all the things that Ryan does to research and pull stuff into one cohesive volume, one book, was huge. And then the third was Choose Yourself by James Altucher. I read that book. So I'd been an entrepreneur for a couple of years. I failed, lost all my money, and I got a regular job working 9 to 5. And that was great. That's actually where I worked with a lot of the Fortune 500 companies. They were clients of a bigger company that I was helping them out. And I read Choose Yourself, and it just kind of knocked me in the head. I was like, I am not living my purpose. I am not really working the best and highest of my ability. So I read that in like August of 2013, and I left my job like 4 or 5 months later. So that was the beginning of my next stint with entrepreneurship, which I'm in the thicket of right now. And I actually got a quote from James. It's on the cover of my book. So
yeah, I've seen that, man. Congrats, man. That's big. Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is a great segue to the final question, though, is what is your biggest life lesson that you learned?
So I think it's just got to be that failure is feedback. Like you can't really let failures get you too down and stop you. And the other side of the coin is you can't let successes get you too high. And like, because the second that you think you got something figured out, or like the second like you think that, oh, I've got this, is when the universe is going to knock you upside the head and like show you that, like, you know, you got to be a constant student. And so just always moving forward and like being accurate, like of assessment of where you are and where you need to be, and every day showing up every day and taking action towards your goals will make the biggest difference in your life.
I love it. All right, Steven, where can people find more information about you?
So my conversion optimization agency is Conversion for Good, conversionforgood.com. Profithacking.com is for the book. And I think I'm like the only Steve Dar in the world. So if you Google that, like I just dominate page 1 of Google.
Awesome.
So.
All right, Steve, thank you so much for going on the Ameer Rosic Show, brother. Have an amazing day.
Thanks, Ameer. You too.
Thank you so much for listening to The Ameer Rosic Show with your host, Ameer Rosic. For more great content and past episodes, go to www.ameerrosic.com. We'll see you next time.